Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and I think we're going to start now. I think there's still some people coming, but just so that we can keep on time, I think we'll kick it off. So I suppose good afternoon and welcome to this. This is the third in our series of MSP Trailblazers, and this is 3 out of 4. So for those of you who are new to the format, how this works is this is an interview with an MSP, and what I would say to anybody who's new to the format, or even those of you who are joining us maybe for the third time, is if you have questions, get your questions in early, because for the past 2 weeks we found that we were coming up to 5 o'clock and there were still questions coming in, but we just ran out of time. So if you think of questions, please come in with them really early. So before I kick off, could somebody on the line just confirm that you can all hear me? Just somebody, just pop into the questions box that that you can hear me. That would be good. Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. I can see them coming in. Okay, so let's go. So my name is Janet O'Sullivan, and I'm Channel Marketing Manager with Storagecraft. And on the line today, we are joined by Darren Strong. Now, Darren is from a company called Concise Technologies. They're an MSP or service provider based in the north of the UK. We're delighted to have Darren here today. He's got a great amount of technical knowledge as well as commercial knowledge, and I know that once he starts talking, he's really going to sort of impress you with his knowledge. So, Darren, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, Janet.
Okay, so Darren, I suppose first off, the first thing that we like to do on these calls really is just to, in a couple of sentences, sum up who Concise are and what you do.
Okay, yeah. So Concise Technologies is primarily an MSP, but 7-8 years ago we actually purchased a telecoms company, so we do the whole suite of telecoms, IT, connectivity, and we've built up over the years. We are now 42 people, just touched 5 million turnover, and I've been a successful MSP for a number of years.
Okay, brilliant. And the number of years, so the company, if I'm correct, that company was founded in 1999, and I suppose like many people on the call, it was very humble origins. It was, I mean, if I'm right, it was kind of in the owner's garage is where it started. You, I understand, joined the company in 2005. So can you tell us a little bit what the company was like at that point?
Yeah, so the company was a small business, 7 people in the business, including the MD. And we sort of did a little bit of managed services, but quite a lot of break fix, which was the normal in those days. And what we did do is we still did one price per month, and you get all your resources, which was unusual at the time. So we were sort of cutting edge on that side of it, I feel. But yeah, there were 7 people in the business. There was very little processes. Everyone knew what everyone was doing. And then over the years, we've hit certain points in time where we sort of call them ceilings, where we've had to get through that pain barrier and get through that ceiling, because the bigger you go, the more customers you support, the more people you have internally, the more processes and structures you've got to sort of create to manage that.
Okay. So in terms of a ceiling, I mean, describe to me kind of what you mean by a ceiling. Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so as we sort of hit 12 people and then 20 people and then roughly the mid-30s, we basically hit what we sort of felt was pain barriers, and you struggled to increase the revenue and the gross margin and the people and keep everything happy at the same time. So you'd move from a point where every engineer would know where everyone was, and they would know where every customer was and what all the passwords were off the top of their head, to the point where nobody really knows the customers, and you need to have processes and a structure and a lot of data information for that engineer to be able to actually be successful again. And it's creating that structure.
All right, okay. And in terms of processes, what kind of processes would you have implemented at each of those stages?
Quite a lot of it is is around holding that information and getting engineers to do the worst thing they want, which is document. But actually having that information in the system, so then they don't get asked questions or they don't get interrupted when they're on major jobs. And then making sure that the structure of the business and the skills and the training is all aligned to the right products and the right verticals and technology stack that the business wants to do.
Okay. And do you have formal processes, or are these processes you would have created yourselves?
The processes we've created ourselves and tweaked slightly, but over the years we're a member of HTG that's tied onto ConnectWise, and using SLI and HTG, we've basically learned that using that data of 2,500 MSPs struck together, actually the top quartile, which they call best in class, actually looking at how they are doing it. So instead of reinventing the wheel every 6 months or every 12 months because something's not working, you're actually getting down to the core nitty-gritty of how these people are actually doing it and how they're actually making successful businesses out of it. And then we've just mirrored that and tweaked it slightly, maybe, to fit maybe the structure that we have or the way that we want to shape the business. But the core element of it is took from that base.
Okay. I'm going to come back to HTG because I think that's important. But I suppose one of the things that jumps out there is just about customers. And from when you started, or rather when you joined back in 2005, what would have been sort of a typical customer, and has that changed significantly over the years?
I think a lot of the time the customer and Concise would be actually doing a lot of the sales and the installations based on price. And we'd be looking at what is actually achievable in the market, what we feel our competitors are doing, and basically matching that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your competitors are making any money out of it, which means neither will yourself. And also looking at the customers. So we didn't really look at the customers. We sort of took anything that came our way, especially when the recession hit. We would just take any customer that we would get our hands on. Now we're a lot more defined in we've actually looked at what is a good customer, what is a successful customer, and we've done that by actually using the data that we've collected over the last 7 years in ConnectWise and actually analyse what is the effectively hourly rate of a customer. So taking into consideration what they've purchased, what we've hard cogs are on that and operations, and what is the actual hourly rate, and then rated those customers. And then looked at what the top quartile is and why they're that top quartile. Is it because they believe technology enables their business? Is it that they've got a budget? Is it that they're a certain size of company? And what we found using the products that we've just mentioned, HTG and the likes, is that actually you need to have a defined customer, because a process that works for one size of customer won't work for another size of customer. And you can't have multiple processes for the same things, because your operations will just get confused. And all you'll find is you've got upset customers because you're not following the right process for that particular customer.
Okay. And so do you actually kind of rate your customers? Is there kind of a grading? And what metrics kind of inform that grading?
Yeah, so we have a rating where we rate a customer A to D. A customer is the top quartile customer, and a D customer is actually where we're giving them money. But the operations of the business doesn't use that rating. The same delivery of service is delivered across all the base. Where it's used is when we're making decisions as a company or decisions as an account manager. So a client D customer will basically be giving them money, but it may be that actually we've under-scoped a project and that's what's made them a D customer. Or it may be that actually the price of their contract isn't correct. So then it's down to the account manager in the business to have, within the quarterly business reviews that we have with the customers, we'll be discussing that performance as well as their performance and our performance, and then working out a plan of how we're going to get them into the top quartile. And if that plan isn't achievable for whatever reason, whether it's the support contract needs to go up by 20% and they're not willing to pay it, then we are more than happy to help them to go and find another IT company, and we've got a complete offboarding project scoped out that will actually make that as smooth as we possibly can, and we'll let them go to somebody else. And that's a very hard decision and a big change of mind, especially for an account manager.
Absolutely. That's something that I would imagine the sales team or the account managers, you say, would resist because, they obviously want to keep, a sale is a sale. It makes perfect sense, but I'm wondering, like, from when you've come from back in 2005 to now, how many original customers do you still have, or do you think that, that there's been a lot of changes in your customer base?
No, we have a very good nutrition rate. And we still have some customers now that was here when I started, and when the business was actually created, those businesses started. But we have, over the last 2 years, we have had a higher nutrition rate than what we've had in any previous year since we've started to rate our customers. And some of that has been just things that have gone wrong, and we didn't really want to lose that customer. But the biggest majority of that is actually where we've gone through that process in the QBRs and decided that actually we're not the right fit for each other, and we actually need to help you to go and find somebody else.
Okay. And again, a sort of a customer focused question. Do you think that, and I'm sure that the answer is yes, but what the pain points or the challenges for customers kind of, back in 2005 versus now, how significantly have they changed, or what they expect you to deliver, how has that changed?
Yeah, it's changed in a big way. I'm not sure how much of it has changed because of the customer or because of Concise, but a lot of it is around the partnership and the customer service. We have a big motto that we support the people, not the technology, because a technical person can get really deep down by a PC fault or whatever, and not really look at how it's affecting that user or affecting that business or affecting that way of person's life. So all of our processing and structure is designed around the person and the user that you're supporting, their well-being as such. So, are they happy? Are they being informed? Are they being kept in contact with? Have they got a different process that they can use if their printer's not working, for instance? We also have standby machines. Do they need a standby machine because their current effectiveness isn't good enough for their business? And all the processes are structured around that, and I think that's the difference now. A lot of it was around the technology, and the technology was a lot simpler in those days. There wasn't as much mobility going on now compared to what there is now. Most users had one machine. Now most people have got 3 machines. So there's a big mobility piece there, and definitely a big security piece. I think the security is the massive topic of the industry at the minute. A lot of the conversations have changed around, instead of having these perimeter situations and firewalls and filtering in place, that means you're going to be secure. The conversation is now that you've got these things in place, but all it actually is doing is closing the door slightly, and you've still got the door slightly open. And what we need to do is understand that there is still a possibility, and what you can do with your users to train them on security. And I think that's the next big thing that's coming up.
Okay. And how aware do you think your customers are about security? Do you still think that there's a high level of ignorance out there?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people feel that they are secure and they sleep at night. And I think the message isn't out there yet that it's not that you're secure, it's just when it will happen and what will happen, and how can you recover from it. What are your lines of defense, and how much actual penetration will it get within the business? How good is your backup, for instance? How good is your recovery time? And how good is your users? Your user is your last divine defense, then your backup. So, how good is all of that? And I think there's too many people still at the minute that believe that all the security in place will mean that it will happen to them, and that's not the case.
Yeah. So again, sort of go back to sort of the journey, the Concise journey. How long did it take, I suppose, to kind of completely change, or have you completely changed from break fix to kind of 100%, that sort of recurring revenue?
Well, we've been on managed service for a good number of years now, probably 6-7 years, and a lot of that has been recurring revenue, but a lot of it hasn't been monthly. So we've changed over the last few years to driving it all to monthly instead of some of it being quarterly or annually. And I think that's been a big change, but we're going through a big change as far as how the business is driven, how it's structured, how the processes are within it, and what are our big things that we need to change. Instead of us going for 100 things that need to change, we've now got our core 3 things that we do for 12 months, and then we review it every 12 months. So we've been doing that for 12 months this May. So we've still got probably another 2 years of doing that. Our estimate is that it's going to take us 3 years to get that culture and that habit and that process into the business. But we're already seeing that distill down into small projects that we're doing as well, not just the 3 main key areas that we've got. And a lot of the conversations are around that type of principle. But we've set our journey out that we've got another 2 years left on that transition period. And within the business, we sort of talk about it as that the business is a tanker, and it's not just an instant stop and turn around. You've got to slowly slow it down, turn it around, and then put your foot back down again, and it'll slowly catch back up again. So we've planned that to be a 3-year transition.
Very good. I like the idea that you as a company, you every year sort of pick 3 things that you will change, because it seems like it's an achievable objective. Would you maybe sort of share kind of from going back sort of over a number of years the examples of the kind of things that you said, okay, this is something we're going to change this year?
Well, we only really started this year in a big way. But one of the big ones was around the actual customer grading, the client grading, and actually getting that really defined and getting people in the business to understand the why, because that's the big thing. It's getting everyone actually bought into it and understand it, creating some of the structure around there and the processes, and actually getting that really built into the business that we are happy for certain customers to leave. Because the instant reaction is the account manager obviously going mad because you've just took money out of his back pocket and he's lost a customer that's took him years to create and breed. And a support personnel is thinking, am I going to get the job cut from underneath me because we're losing customers? But actually, we've lost a percentage of customers and our turnover has stayed the same, but our gross margin has gone up. Operational effectiveness has gone up, and our customer satisfaction has gone up. So everything's gone up because we've lost those customers that were actually just dragging us down, wasting a lot of time in operations and actually not making any gross margin.
Very good. So can I ask, do you have like a target gross margin for a customer that you say, yeah, this is what we have to achieve, otherwise this customer moves down to a D?
Well, that's all done in the system. So the grading is all in the system, and every Sunday that SQL query runs and grades all the customers. So we know once a week all the customers get graded. But there's a lot of calculations there. So it's not just a GM. There's a lot of other calculations in there as far as, from an operations point of view, how much tickets are we putting into them, and how much did they buy and how successful are the projects.
Okay. All right. In terms of your customer base, how many would most of your customers be people who don't have their own IT department, or do you see a growing number of customers who actually do have their own IT department but they use you for other services?
A good percentage, probably 70% of the base, don't have IT, but a percentage of them have got somebody that we would call the main contact that does have a good level of IT knowledge, so they understand how it works and they bridge the gap between the company and ourselves. But then, another good percentage of the business that have got IT in some manner. It may be one person or it may be a team of 5 people. I think where we're sort of seeing it more is when you get what our client looks like is 20 to 120 users, and that top end of that bracket is where we're seeing they have their own IT of some manner. It may be to do bespoke applications, or it may be to do local on-premise, quick fix, small desktop problems because they need that quick reaction and that on-site friendly face that we don't do. But our processes work for all of that, and the processes work where we have to communicate with internal IT, or we have to communicate with a main contact, or there is nobody there that we communicate with and we just communicate with, for instance, the finance person who doesn't really know IT. But all our setup in operations governs how that runs.
Okay. In terms of the kind of the services that you offer, do you have kind of like a standard range of services that you offer, and has that changed? Have you added to the services, or have you taken some off over the years?
Yeah, so we have core services that we have, and then we have bolt-ons. But all the core services have sort of stayed the same, but evolved a little bit. But the bolt-ons have obviously evolved. So, for instance, 2 years ago, if not a little bit more, our managed service contract would be there to also manage the backup solution. Now the backup solution is a completely separate contract, same as the security is a separate contract. So the actual things that we were doing in the managed service, but we were probably only doing them 70%. So we've added to that and created a new service. And it's potentially a way of, as well, of actually increasing your price on your managed service, because you were doing a lot of it anyway, and now you're actually going to charge the customer extra for managing an extra service, but doing it more efficiently and better. And it also means that you can actually dictate, because it's a service, you can dictate what technology stack and what technology you're going to use within that service. So instead of you having 5 different backup solutions that you're managing across the whole base, you're now saying you're going to manage this one backup solution and you're going to put it in and manage it as a service.
Okay. Actually, our interviewee last week, he felt, and again, they're an American company, so sometimes we think that the Americans are maybe a year or 2 years ahead of us, and he felt that any service provider who's not offering security as a service is going to lose out in the long run, and they're going to lose customers to people who do offer security as a service. So, so I presume you'd kind of concur with that view.
Yeah, I think it's a big growing market. I think the concern is if you're not offering it some clients will get some sort of marketing or some sort of webinar or even a lunch and learn where they're presenting it. And from what I can tell, a good percentage of the people that are doing that can actually offer the managed service as well. So once they get their foot in the door doing one service, you've then got somebody that you're going to have to compete with.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so in terms of your staff then, I mean, you mentioned the kind of, when you joined the company there was 7, and obviously, when David started the company there was 1. Now you're up to 42 people. How is the mix of that staff, technical versus sales versus marketing versus admin? How has that changed?
Yes, so there's more people in technical than there was before. So there's 29 people in technical, there's 6 people in sales, and the rest admin and management staff. But the actual client base has grown, and we haven't added a lot of headcount. And the headcount that we have added, we've been doing a scheme for the last 5 years where we've been taking on 2 apprentices, sometimes 1, but mostly 2 apprentices per year. And we've had a big scheme that we're not employing people above tier 1. So everybody grows within the business, and they come in as an apprentice, and they grow upwards. So also the cost of that person is significantly decreased compared to getting someone that's already got all the knowledge. And they don't come with any bad habits or characters or behaviour differences. And we teach them what we want them to learn, and we've been doing that for the last 5 years. So the tier 1 desk, which is 9 people, 7 of them are apprentices, having the last 3 second or first year apprentices. So the cost of tier 1 is significantly less than it was before, and it's enabled us to have more resource on tier 1 for the same price, and obviously have where we can cope with the demand and respond quicker to a client's issue.
Well, because one of the things I was going to ask you about is, obviously there is a skills gap in the industry, and how do you cope with that, and where you're getting your talent from? But obviously, your reaction is we'll grow our own talent, for want of a better description. So of your 29 people, the 29 technical people, then how many of those would have kind of come through your apprenticeship program?
So I think there's 9 people, because we've actually lost 1 person in the whole time we've used it. He actually decided to take a different career. So there's 9 people in the technical department that have come from that apprenticeship scheme, and it's really worked for us. You really get that buy-in, get to understand them, get to grow them, and get to give them the knowledge that you want to give them. We have a big motto, a big way of thinking, just like Richard Branson does, where you train your people so they can leave, but you treat them so they don't leave. And we try to do a lot of feedback to the people in all different manners of ways to ensure that it's a good place to work and they feel a part of the family and team.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. So I suppose looking back, sort of, in the history of the company, what, like, obviously the company has reached great success. If you were to sort of identify maybe sort of the top 3 things that contributed to the success of the business, what would you pick out as maybe sort of 3 things?
I would say the 3 things would be the ConnectWise, HTG and SLI that I would sort of class together, and a process that we're doing, which we've been doing for the last year and we will be doing for 3 years, called Stratop, which is the process that has created the 3 big things that we're going to do every 12 months, and that whole process and structure behind it.
Okay, so talk to me about HTG, because some people on the call mightn't be familiar with it. What is it and how does it work, I guess?
Okay, yeah. So HTG is you'd be running ConnectWise, and HTG is a separate company, but it's everybody that runs ConnectWise. So you've got the same structure. Everybody, it's everyone discloses everything, including finances. Everyone submits the same structured P&L every quarter. Everybody meets in person every quarter in a different location in the UK, and it's very much creating that knowledge sharing. It's got they bring speakers across, and you get one mentor within the team, and there's a lot of information there and a lot of sharing. And I think the biggest thing it brings from an MD standpoint is you're then going to get another amount of MDs that are in your group that almost become your board of directors, and they can help you to achieve certain things and also hold you accountable, where a lot of the time people aren't held accountable within the business because of where they sit in the business, and there's nobody really able to hold them strongly accountable for something, which all means the business moves forward in such a more dramatic pace than it has ever before, because you've got a bigger director board to actually get all that knowledge.
Okay. Excellent. So I suppose a question, sort of, everybody's looking for sort of their unique selling points. So I guess, what differentiates Concise from other managed service providers?
Ours is all around the partnership and making sure that it's a good match, and we strongly believe that we support the people and not the technology, and we believe that's the big difference with us. We make decisions weekly, if not daily, that aren't sort of right commercially for Concise, but they're right for the customer, because of that partnership we've got with the customer. And our nutrition rate on our people is really low, which means everybody in the business gets to know their business very well, and the process and the structure just backs that up and means that they get a good customer service. Okay.
In terms of the future, both for Concise, I suppose, and the industry in general, I mean, where do you see Concise going now? Or maybe before we get to that, I suppose, what do you see as the challenges today, the biggest challenges for a service provider today?
I think the biggest.
And how do you deal with them?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is actually getting the right money for the service that you're providing, and getting the right customer to match that. If those two things aren't right, and you're just competing on price or just land grabbing, I think you're just creating a whole load of issues that at some point are going to raise their head.
Well, and I suppose that's the question then. How do you pick the right price? How do you know you're charging the right price for your services?
Yeah, so we use SLI for that. So we get 2,500 other MSP businesses, and we get to see their P&L and their line items, and actually work out, what they're selling each service for, how many heads they're using to support that service, and what gross margin they're getting at the back of it, and some of the processes that come out of Sleek to tell you not how to do that, but what things you'll be getting problems with and how you could potentially change them.
Okay, what was that? What did you call that service?
Sleek. So it sort of comes off the back of SLI and Sleek. So it basically helps you to understand where your core issues are and why they're there.
Okay, all right, excellent. And that's something that any MSP can sign up for and get access to that information.
Yeah, it's done by Paul Dipple.
Okay, all right, okay. So I think Samuel has asked the same question. Is that part of the HTG group? But it's not. That's not part of HTG SLI. No.
No. The SLI is SLI is part of HTG, but Sleek is a separate thing.
Okay. All right. Okay.
The SLI
okay.
Put their figures, their P&L in a certain format.
All right. Okay. And in terms of the challenges for today, besides pricing, is there anything else that that you think is an issue for service providers? Anything else that you wrestle with?
I think the big one is getting the message around security and what that means to a business and what that could potentially mean moving forward. And it's not that you're secure. It's when will it happen and what will you do when it happens. What's your backup process? What's your DR process? How are your users trained to identify malware and cyber attacks? And what other perimeter structures do you have in place? And the big one we're looking at the minute is actual compliance. So you're saying, we've got these firewalls, we've got these backups, and they're all running to this. And for instance, nobody's got local admins. But actually, when was the last time that was checked? Because when you check it, you find actually 2 people do have local admins because they were given it with regards to a support request, for instance, that wasn't really cleared up. So they was left with those permissions, and actually it's no longer compliant. So you're going to bed at night thinking you can sleep when actually what you think you've got isn't what you've actually got. And a lot of the security services we're developing are around that compliance structure. So what things should you have in place, and then how are you going to check that they're still there?
Okay. So in terms of the future, where do you see the future going? First of all, I suppose for Concise, but also I suppose the bigger picture is, for our industry. Where do you see it going in 2, 3, 5 years?
For Concise, our big aim is to increase gross margin, but not really increase the actual headcount of the business. The structures and processes in place we've got now, we've got headroom to create more operational needs. So we're basically just putting our foot down to really ramp up, bringing on customers, bringing on the right customers, and giving them the right level of service. Where are we going moving forward? I think there's a little bit of undoubtfulness really of security is obviously a big thing. If you listen to marketing, cloud's a big thing, but actually if you look at the commercials around it, it's less than 5% of somebody's gross margin, the typical managed service gross margin company. So it's nowhere near as big as Microsoft, for instance, would want you to believe. But I do believe it's an up-and-coming thing that everyone needs to keep their eye on, because Microsoft are going to make it that way, especially around the costs of licenses and services. But I don't think it's anywhere near as big as what the marketing hype would make it out to be.
Okay. In your business, what delivers the biggest margin in your organisation?
The biggest business for us is backups. The backup gross margin is roughly 50% of our managed service gross margin. But to deliver our managed service, it takes 12 people, but to deliver the backup takes 2 people. It's a massive win for us. If you put it in right, you got your team trained up right, you're monitoring it right, and you're creating all those efficiencies. It really does excel, and we're just looking at ramping that up more and more.
And do you, as a business, do you actively look for new products that you can offer, new products and services you can offer, or do you just sort of say, okay, we're going to stick to these core products, or what's kind of your process for assessing new sort of solutions?
If it's something that's broke currently on a solution that we're doing, we will have identified that using the KPIs that we've got, and we would look out to the market. But we have a team that has 5 senior people from each segment of the business, so it's a lot of different people's perspectives, and we would look at what the actual root issue is and whether it's Concise that needs to do more training or it's the actual product. But the core products we've got are really firmed into the business now, and we've got a lot of processes and structure and belief in them, and they will just continue to excel for us. We are looking at some securities, but we're looking in a structured manner and looking at what the client needs are, not what the marketing says it is, and actually looking at what the core products can do for us and what those commercials will look like. And it's the team of 5 people that do that, and occasionally we bring different people in for different skills. But the key thing for that is to actually get other people's perspectives in the business and look at it across the business, not just because it's a technical piece of software, you only have technical people involved, because that will just mean you'll get a technical solution that potentially isn't commercially valuable.
Okay. Very good. So a question has come in. Could you tell us kind of what products you have in your stack at the minute?
So we have.
Are you happy to share those?
We have a managed service contract that within it has your typical IT, AV, web filtering, email filtering, all as standard. And then we've got the backup service, and off the back of the backup service you can bolt on DR and DR+. We actually use our own data center for a lot of that, so we manage the data center, and we have infrastructure as a service, so we have people live in one of our data centers, and we manage that end to end. So the only thing the customer owns is the actual LAN equipment. So we own the switches and the firewall; they just own the PCs, and we manage all of that for them from one point to the next. And then we have the security service, and that's it. And then we have our telecoms service on the other side. So we have 3 different brands of telecom service depending on the customer's requirements.
Okay. And in terms of your plans for growth and that, do Concise, do you grow organically, or have you made acquisitions over the years?
We've only made one acquisition, and that was the one, I think 7 years ago, but time flies. That was a good acquisition from what we gained from it, but it was unfortunately bad timing, because right after we did it, the actual recession hit, so it actually hurt us quite a lot. We haven't done anything like that since, and our current plan to grow isn't around acquisitions, it's around taking on the right customer, using inbound marketing, and the plan is to take on 2 customers a month. Okay,
that's a pretty aggressive target. How is that? Have you been realising that? And if so, how?
We've hit 2 customers a month for the last 3 months, but it has only just really started for us. They haven't actually been from organic inbound; they've been via other means. The inbound has been running for 6 months now, so we know that that's going to take roughly 12 months to actually ramp up, really. But we've still been hitting the target of 2 customers a month.
Okay. And is there a capacity where you sort of say we can't take any more customers, or how do you deal with that, or how do you assess that?
We're using all the KPIs that we've got within operations. The key ones are the SLAs compared to the customer satisfaction that goes out on all the tickets, and how successful we are. We've defined what does good look like from an operation point of view, and we just monitor that constantly. But we know we can take on probably 16 months worth of customers, two customers a month, and still have a good customer satisfaction and SLA results. And we just monitor that along with the SLI results that basically grade you against your other peers, so you can see where you are on line item, whether you're best in class or not. And best in class is taken from the top quartile of the 2,500 customers.
Okay. And in terms of SLAs, do you offer? Is it the same SLA for every customer, or is that different per customer?
No, it's the same SLA it's an SLA for all customers per service. So we're very big on having one technology stack, one set of support agreements, and one set of structure, because that means that there's no bespoking going on or deviation, which just completely means you get upset customers and clients. And it just, if a customer says, but we're slightly different, and so is everybody else, and which part of this process that costs X amount of money, which is best in class that you want, which part of that do you want to take out that's going to mean it's not best in class, because we want to give you the best we can do.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. A question which always comes up, do you pay commission to your engineers? Do they get sales commission?
No. It is something we've looked at in the past, but we've never managed to clearly define what it is and what it looks like, and how a salesperson can't say, yeah, but I've been talking to them for the last 2 years, so it's not an engineering find, or no, we're not really structured in that way. The biggest thing we do is we have an incentive, what we call Concise Pie. So it works on invoices paid this quarter and what gross margin we've got out of that. And if that gross margin is over a certain target, everybody in the business gets a percentage of that gross margin. So we're not paying people on finding things. We're paying people on us being completely effective in what we are doing. So if everything's selling that we should do and everything's being put in and operational as we should do, that gross margin should be a high figure, and that means then that the team as a whole gets paid out on it.
Okay. All right. A question here: how do you maintain a great culture as you have grown the number of staff?
Yeah, that has been hard, and that's one of the main reasons we went down the apprenticeship route and said that from this point on, unless we get a real major curveball that we hadn't thought of or has been hit us, someone senior gives resignation that it's going to hurt us, we won't take anybody above tier 1. Which means you're getting people that are, first couple of ladders of their technology career, or they're definite apprentices, and then we can actually look at them and say, we're not taking you on because you've got these level of skills, or you've got an MCSE, or whatever it may be. We're taking you on because your culture fits, and your behaviour fits, and your ability fits, and we know that you can actually apply yourself, and we'll teach you the rest. So we're not taking people on because they've got the technology skills. We're taking them on because they are a right fit as a person. And then we bring them on at a young age, which means they don't really know anything different. And the surrounding environment just breeds that type of behaviour that we need to require.
Yeah. Okay. Darren, okay, so I suppose final question for me is, you're being interviewed as under the banner as a Trailblazer MSP. So why do you think Concise is a Trailblazer, or what do you think sort of makes you better than the rest?
I think it's a lot of things we've talked around. We are a very big people-focused business, and whether that be customer side or internally. And I think we've really got to grips with a lot of that, and that's what's really excelled us for the last 2 years. In the last 2 to 3 years, the business has changed so much, and I think that the tanker now is ready to put its foot down and see where we can take it. But I think what we've got internally as far as a culture, and we've got the right customers now. I think that is if we can just repeat that constantly, that's going to enable us to be one of the best MSPs.
Brilliant. Okay. So Darren, stay on the line, and we're going to what we're going to do now is something that we've kind of run out of time over the past 2 weeks is let's say this webinar is kind of co-sponsored between ourselves, Storagecraft, and our colleagues, our friends at Inbay. So I'm going to ask Scott from Inbay. Scott, are you on the line?
I am indeed, Janet. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. So, Scott, I'm just going to ask you to kind of just go to tell us a little bit for the people who are on the line who are Storagecraft partners and not Inbay, to just maybe tell us a little bit about Inbay. And I'm just, if this works, I'm going to be showing some slides for you. So I'm going to hand over to you. Okay?
Great stuff. Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Darren. That was a really insightful look at your MSP and your organisation. So, really, really good insight there. As Janet alluded to, this is a co-hosted webinar where we're talking to Inbay and Storagecraft and partners. So, just to give you an overview of who Inbay are, we're an organisation that was founded in 2002. And what we do basically is offer white label NOC service desk and project services to MSPs globally. And we deliver that from our technical delivery centre in Colombo in Sri Lanka, and we've had that organisation or that operation running since 2007. Importantly for a lot of our partners, we were an MSP ourselves. Until we sold our MSP a couple of years ago. But being an MSP previously gives us a very good insight into as to what MSPs want from an organisation like ourselves. And I guess we know where the bodies are buried in so far as what we need to do to offer our services to organisations like you. From the MSP side of things, we switched our focus to a channel-only model in 2013 by just offering our NOC service desk and project services to MSPs globally, as I said, and we only do that through MSPs. We don't sell our services direct to end users. We're an organisation based in London, and as mentioned earlier, we are global, and our clients are based in North America, UK, Europe, and Australia, New Zealand, and around the Asian region. And last year was a significant milestone for a company like Inbay. We had huge growth. And the reason for that, and the reason that we've heard that from a lot of our partners globally, is that it's hard to get resource. And I know, Darren, you touched on the resource element of your business. So as a company, we're out there to offer resources that will help you guys grow your businesses. You know, providing these wraparound services that we do, you know, we don't tie you into certain tools. We're vendor agnostic, so you can go out and use your own tools. But by offering these services as a back end, you can go out there and get your engineers doing the margin-rich projects and services that you offer by and back-ending the bread and butter services like we have to a company like Inbay. And we're there to augment your team, basically. That's pretty much what we do. Janet, that's okay. You can go to the next slide. It's fine. I know we've got a very finite amount of time here, but and I can go into why we do it and how we do it and so forth. But if you're an organisation looking to grow your business, if you're really looking at augmenting either your existing teams on a 24/7 basis or an after-hours basis, and you need to look at your NOC service desk elements, feel free to give me a call. There's all my details up on the screen. We'd love to speak to you and see if we can help your organisations out. Janet, back to you.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, so for the people who are on the phone who may not know who Storagecraft is, well, we are Storagecraft. We're a disaster recovery software company founded in 2003 in Utah. The company has grown significantly. We now have a European presence. I'm talking to you today from our European headquarters in Ireland. So the company now, we are 100% channel based, and we have over 11,000 partners worldwide, and we calculate roughly that we've backed up over 1 million devices. Okay, so what we do is, well, what our software allows you to do as an MSP is to deliver a really fully comprehensive disaster recovery solution. And as you know, as we've talked about in this call, security, disaster recovery, it's a huge part of the future of our industry. And what we will allow you to do as an MSP is really to sort of, to first of all, to sleep soundly at night because you know that your product is working, but also it allows you to sort of to make a lot more revenue than some of your other services. And again, as Darren touched on there, DR services offering them something like 50-60% margin, which is very attractive. So again, if you want to know more, please feel free to contact us, and we're happy to share with it. Okay, So all that remains to be said is this. I suppose there's two things. The first of all, I suppose, is to really thank Darren for coming on the call today. It was hugely informative, and as I say, anytime I talk to Darren, the depth of his knowledge is always impressive. So thank you, Darren, and thank you for taking the time. And again, we will be following up to people. We'll send out people. I know people have asked about recordings and that. We'll get these out to you, and some more details, because I know Darren mentioned some specific things there, like the pricing information and that, and we'll get all that out to you after the call. So thank you, Darren.
Yeah, no problem.
I think you've gone quiet. Okay, thank you. And also, I suppose, just to introduce for next week, we're really excited to talk to Stephen Ross, who's going to be talking to us from further north again. He's talking to us from Dundee in Scotland next week. So Stephen has built up a very successful service company in Dundee and in Scotland, and he's happy to come on board and share his wit and wisdom with us. Not next week, sorry. We're going to lose a week with Easter, so he's joining us on the 19th of April. So please put it in your diary. And apart from that, it just remains me to thank you from me. And Scott, if you want to sign off. And I think we've probably already lost Scott as well. So again,
Janet,
sorry, he's back.
I'm here. I was just going to say thank you, everyone, for joining us. And, very much look forward to speaking to Steve in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay, so thanks again, and goodbye.